Let's talk about Hitler.
That'll make sense later.
I'm immaculately conceived.
I don't know what to do.
I swear I'm not stupid.
Take it or leave it. Sometimes you just want to leave it.
If I gotta borrow my mom's underwear, I'm borrowing her underwear.
You just, yeah.
Misa likes the Jar Jar Binks.
I'm not gonna edit it out.
Oh no.
I don't know. Like I think it was pretty great. Just staying on the
Sucks to
plane.
suck.
Why are you saying it with a question mark?
Clap, bitch.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Action.
And we're live. I'm Anna.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is Why Are You Yelling? Welcome back to another F1 race review. Oh, Jesus. We're getting off to a great start. Today we are reviewing the round 9 of the 2025 Formula One season, the Aramco Grand Premio de España. That's how you say it. The track was the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. And this race was kind of fun.
Also known as the Spanish GP.
Listen, I want to say it right.
Did you?
I want to say the official name. Okay.
I have lipstick on my teeth. I'm scared. Okay.
This was a fun race. I enjoyed the start and then the last 15 to 20 laps.
I enjoyed it while I got to watch it at first. I was traveling. I was in California for a paintball tournament. And so I'm in the line at TSA. I don't know if you saw Travis's story.
Mm-hmm.
We're in line and he's filming. And then it's me holding my phone, like watching. And then they actually had it on the plane. But so, because Delta has like live TV or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on the ESPN live TV. But it was not our commentators.
Oh.
I was like, listen here, Nico Rosberg. I love you, but get the hell out of my fucking ear. No offense.
It's like, I'm used to my people.
I'm used to my humans, and you are not my human. You are not Alex Jakes or Joylin or DC. No hate, but you're not them. So that was super weird and very different. And I was like,
don't like it.
I don't like this. I want to hear. So then when I rewatched the race last night in full, like from like start to finish, all in like one sit down. So I did get to see, back to being on the plane, I did get to see like the end of the race. I'm like on the plane, people are asleep. Max and George had their incident, and I'm like, trying. I was like, anyway, no. So that was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I rewatched the race with our people, and I was like, yes, much preferred.
Yes. Even though we missed Laura Winter, she was not there.
Yeah, what the?
She was doing something else. I don't know.
What the heck?
I don't know what. She took a weekend off, but Ariana Bravo did fine.
She's great,
yeah.
but
But
why are you're not allowed to take days off?
Laura, what are we doing? You can't do that.
What
to
are
us.
you talking about?
You're a girl.
Where are you?
What could you possibly be doing that's more important than being there for us
Yeah,
in our time of need?
come on. So we'll jump into the main race podium before we get into Anna's fun facts. So our race podium was Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, and Charles Leclerc. Woohoo! That was crazy. So we'll jump into our driver standings. Oscar Piastri is number 1 with 186 points. Lando Norris is second with 176, so just a 10-point difference between the two McLaren drivers. We'll see how that keeps playing out. Number 3 is Max Verstappen with 137 points. Number 4 is his best friend, George Russell, with 111 points. And number 5 is Charles Leclerc with 94 points.
Yay.
Oh, I'm going to go to 6. Lewis Hamilton is 6 with 71 points. Those are top 6, because I don't think you guys want to hear all 21.
No.
So now we'll jump into our constructor standings. McLaren is still number 1 with 362 points. Good God. Nobody's catching that.
Mm.
Ferrari is second with 165 points. Mercedes is third with 159 points. Red Bull is fourth with 144 points. Williams is fifth with 54 points. Racing Bulls is sixth with 28 points. Haas is seventh with 26 points. Ooh, so only 2 points between Racing Bulls and Haas. Kick Sauber is eighth with 16 points. Aston Martin is ninth with 16 points. And Alpine is 10th with 11 points. So that is our constructor standings right now.
Yeah, it looks like McLaren is by far and large, after only 9 rounds, they're the runaway favorites for the constructors. I mean, I just don't see any other teams finishing 1-2 in order to make up those points consistently.
The only way. That's the only way. Like,
Yeah,
unless Mercedes or Ferrari, because it's not going to be Red Bull.
Yeah, I just don't see that happening.
No.
So really, the constructor standings is kind of, again, McLaren just the runaway favorite, and it seems that the drivers' championship, again, it's still a little early to say it's a runaway, but it looks like the fight's going to be between the two McLaren drivers.
Oh yeah,
so that's interesting. I'm ready to see them actually like duke it out, you know, because we haven't really had any moments of them really fighting each other for a win. It seems that the cards always sort of fall where one of them is clearly having a better weekend than the other, or one of them gets like an advantage during the race, and that is they offset sort of each other. So we haven't had these moments of like pure like they got to fight for it.
Yeah.
And I'm eager. I know a lot of us are eager to see that happen, because it's kind of like, okay, well, who's the big, the big dog who's gonna come out on top in that battle?
That's insane. It'll be interesting to see how McLaren lets it play out, because they're too close to not let them fight for it either. And they're so far ahead in the constructors, they don't really have to be really scared that if one did DNF because they wreck each other. I mean, I understand you have like budgets and things like that, but like when it comes to the constructors, like it's kind of in the bag. So like they don't really have anything holding them back besides like not wanting to damage their cars to let them fight each other. Because it's like at this point, one of them's going to win the driver's championship. So McLaren's happy, and McLaren's definitely getting the constructors. I mean, unless suddenly Ferrari gets some upgrades and then we're starting to get some Ferrari 1-2s, it's done.
Okay, so we can jump into our fun facts from the race. So this was McLaren's 52nd 1-2 finish in Formula One, and their first in Spain in 25 years. The last time they finished 1-2 was in 2000 with Mika Häkkinen and David Coulthard.
DC.
It was Oscar Piastri's 5th win of the season. He becomes the 3rd McLaren driver to score 8 consecutive podium finishes, joining Ayrton Senna in 1988 and Lewis Hamilton in 2007.
Two legends.
I mean, that's some pretty big names to be in any sort of like statistical like bracket with. Like that's a pretty impressive and kind of a big deal. Like I know sometimes like with statistics, people have I've heard it referred to as like a LeBron stat, where the statistics get very specific. Like a normal statistic would be like most race wins or fastest lap ever on a circuit. But it's like, this is the most wins by a driver in this particular scenario for this team. And when it was raining and there was like a gerbil on the track or something, like it's so specific that it's like, okay, we're getting a little crazy here.
No, yeah. A gerbil. We've seen lizards. We've seen rabbits. But a gerbil? We could. They're so tiny, we probably wouldn't see them.
I think I Googled it once to see like what kinds of animals have been on a Formula One track. And there was a couple interesting ones. I don't remember what they were, but I remember being surprised by it.
They were interesting. I don't know what they were.
I don't remember.
But I remember
I'm not going to take
surprised.
I'm not going to take the time to Google it right now, because that would be
Oh God, no. No.
That was a tangent.
Ooh.
Moving on to our next fun fact. The Spanish Grand Prix was won from the front row for the 32nd time in 35 races at this venue.
It's crazy. The past 10 races, it was won by Lewis or Max. That's crazy.
And Lando Norris, Oscar's teammate, finished 2nd in Barcelona for the 2nd consecutive season. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc finished P3, and it was his first Spanish Grand Prix podium finish on his 8th visit to Barcelona. It was Ferrari's first podium in Barcelona since 2017.
Wow. Charles needs to straight up go to the Red Bull garage and go, thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for helping me. Thank you for helping yourself help me and not helping Max.
Literally at all.
Thanks
for that.
Appreciate you. George Russell started and finished 4th in Spain for the 2nd consecutive season.
He had an interesting race.
Yes, we will. Oh, don't worry. We'll get into it. We'll talk more about Mr. Russell. So Max Verstappen and George Russell set identical lap times during qualifying and collided twice in the closing laps of the Grand Prix, which again we will get into. But when just a like fun fact about qualifying is if two drivers set the same exact time, and remember that they record times now in Formula One up to 3 decimal places. So if two drivers set identical laps in a round of qualifying, whoever set the lap first gets the preferred position. They get the over the other. And so in this case, it was Max set the lap first. Yeah, because he started P3. Yeah. So he set the time first, so he got it over George Russell. Nico Hülkenberg's P5 was the best result for Kick Sauber since the 2022 Imola Grand Prix, where Valtteri Bottas took P5. Way to go, Hulk.
Dude, I was both happy and sad in that moment.
Yes, I know. It was a conflicting moment for you.
I was like, oh, fuck.
You're like, go, Nico. Lewis, what are
I was like, crash him.
This was Hülkenberg's best ever Spanish Grand Prix. This was Hülkenberg's best ever Spanish Grand Prix result in his 12th start at this track.
Good job, Nico.
I love that this happened for Nico. I love that it happened for Sauber. A lot of people jokingly call them green wheelie bins, the green trash bins.
That's funny.
They're just like garbage cars that are the slowest on the grid. And just for him to get P5 is just, and Nico said that there were some upgrades that came for this race. And he was very pleasantly surprised with how well they worked.
Yeah.
I think maybe some things kind of went his way in terms of strategy, and he didn't even do really well in qualifying.
It was because of that safety car. He had a new set of softs, so that's a significantly better tire than like the used softs Lewis was on. So yeah, Charles was on.
And the reason he had that extra set of soft tires is because he went out in Q1 in qualifying. So I mean, great for him. I know that it was very funny in the post-race interviews with Oscar Piastri. They asked him right after the race, they're like, were you aware of like what was happening behind you on the racetrack? Were we able to see like on the screens or anything? And Oscar's like, I saw Nico Hülkenberg got, at the time it was P6, I believe. He finished 6th. So like, great for them. But other than that, no. And it was like, oh, they're trying to bait him and talking about Max and George. But at that point, I don't think he
even knew yet.
No, yeah. I think the top 3 didn't know until they got to the cool down room, and then they were like, oh. So speaking of Nico Hülkenberg overtaking Mr. Lewis Hamilton.
Sir.
Pardon me.
Yeah, pardon you.
Pardon me, sir. Speaking of Nico Hülkenberg overtaking Sir Lewis Hamilton. Yeah. Lewis Hamilton finished P6 for Ferrari, and it was his worst Spanish Grand Prix. I don't know why I can't say this. It was his worst Spanish Grand Prix result since colliding with Nico Rosberg on lap 1 in 2016.
Oof.
I
was like, fuck.
I watched some of the post-race interviews and show analysis, and Julian Palmer did a breakdown of some of the key moments of the race on F1 TV. And so he talked about the moment where Nico overtook Lewis, and he basically said that it seemed like Lewis was kind of having like a down weekend anyway, and that he kind of just didn't fight Nico when he didn't really try to defend. And okay, we can get more into that later, but it was interesting that he made that observation that looked like Lewis just didn't even pick the fight. He just let him kind of have it. And I don't know if that was just down, I assume it was just down to the tires and Nico's being newer. But yeah, that was an interesting moment for sure. That, outside of all the
much
of it all.
So much happened in those 2 laps,
yes.
bro. And I was like,
Isaac Hadjar finished P7 for Racing Bulls, and he scored a career best finish for the 2nd consecutive weekend. So he finished P8 in Monaco last weekend. And that was his, at the time, career best finish. And so he just improved on his career best finish.
So he's the rookie we need to be looking at. That's my now new opinion. That's no hate to anybody else. It's just Isaac is very consistent. He has a great attitude with the team, very much of a leadership role.
I feel like at the start of the season, Kimi Antonelli and maybe Ollie Behrman were kind of the 2 favorites, and then more so Kimi Antonelli. He's been having some issues with the car the last couple weekends and just hasn't really performed as well as we were used to at the beginning of the season. And I mean, I've seen some people talking about they wouldn't be surprised or they think that Isaac Hadjar is the runaway favorite for Rookie of the Year when they do the FIA like awards.
Oh, for
at
yes.
the end.
I
of
mean,
the
unless
season.
something drastically changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's going that way now for sure.
Yeah. So Pierre Gasly finished P8 for Alpine. It was his best Spanish Grand Prix result since finishing 8th for Red Bull in 2019. So Pierre doing well at this track as well. Alpine scored points in a Grand Prix for only the second time this season. So Alpine had it seemed like a strong end to last season. And then this season is kind of like, what's going on? What are we doing? What's happening?
Well, somebody saw Colapinto perform in a Williams and thought he can do the exact same thing in an Alpine. It's a whole new car, whole new everything, not the same thing. Not to mention he was a Williams Academy driver, I think. So he already had a relationship with Williams within that team, so it's kind of a whole new thing for him. So yeah.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I mean, Colapinto already had issues.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't even get to qualify, really.
This is perhaps my favorite fun fact stat for the entire race weekend. Fernando Alonso, racing for Aston Martin, came in P9. It was his first points finish of the season. We knew you could do it.
And at your home race?
I know.
At your home
that
race?
That just gave him the boost he needed.
When he qualified, when he was in the top 10 and he qualified, he came across as 5th at the time. That crowd, you could hear that they just were screaming and roaring and hollering, and I loved it.
I think that...
And he was so happy.
I think there is something to the sort of home race advantage, if you will. You do get an extra sort of burst of energy from having a lot of support there.
Yeah.
And I think that he also, this being his home race, I would think is very familiar with this track. And so there were, I think, a couple of times, and people pointed this out, that he made moves in areas where people don't typically overtake.
He was like, get out the way.
And so they think that may be attributed to his knowledge of the track, how familiar he is with it, how much, I mean, he's also is the most experienced driver on the grid right now. So he will have raced here more than anyone else. And, everything just kind of combined for a perfect storm. And originally he was just P10, but then obviously with the Max getting his penalty toward the end of the race, then he was promoted up to P9.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just okay, good job. Love that for you.
Loved it. I was
finally
so excited.
And we didn't just score 1 point, we got 2.
Yes, right. Thanks, Max.
I'll take it. So speaking of Max, he finished 5th on the road, but was classified 10th after receiving a 10-second time penalty due to his collision with George Russell.
Yeah.
We are almost done with our fun facts and stats, I promise. So this was Max Verstappen's worst result in the Spanish Grand Prix since 2017 and his lowest finish in a race since the 2017 Italian Grand Prix, where he also took P10. Think about that. He has either finished above P10 or DNF'd every race since 2017 in Italy. So for what year are we? So for 8 years?
That's nuts.
8 years he has been either in the points, above P10 or DNF'd.
It's crazy.
Some drivers would kill for that sort of record.
Yeah.
Some drivers would kill just to have been in Formula One for 8 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So going on to Gabriel Bortoleto, finished P12 for Kick Sauber, and it was his career best finish.
Which, I mean, that's 12th is significantly better than what's been happening. So, I mean, whatever upgrades they brought, they're working.
Yeah. As much as Gabriel Bortoleto has been sort of lauded and sort of seen as one to watch coming into Formula One, I mean, you look at the way that he won basically Formula 3 and Formula 2 as a rookie. Won Formula 3, won the Drivers' Championship. The next year went up to Formula 2, won that championship.
And is now in Formula 1.
And is now in Formula 1.
Yeah.
Similar thing happened with Oscar Piastri. I've heard people comparing their two sort of driving careers. And Oscar Piastri, same thing happened where he went into Formula 3 as a rookie, won that championship that same year. The next year went into Formula 2, won that championship that same year. And I think you said he
won a championship before he went into Formula 3.
Okay.
He won the Euro Cup. Dang.
Okay.
I just had the stat, but yeah.
But basically he was a reserve driver for, I think, 2 years.
Yeah.
And then came on with McLaren in 2023. So, but again, comparing just their sort of careers prior to F1, in that they both were able to manage to win those lower series as a rookie 2 years in a row, Formula 3, Formula 2. And you see how competitive Oscar is in only his third season in Formula 1. I mean, it gives me a lot of hope for Gabby because, look at me calling him Gabby like I know
we're
him.
Friends.
It gives me a lot of hope for Gabby because I think that it's easy to say, well, he's just another one of those, promising rookies that hasn't been able to do anything, considering, this P12 is his best finish so far, in his Formula 1 career. I think it could be easy to kind of just, brush that off and look at him as another sort of like, a Nick DeVries or a Logan Sargent or, somebody who just had a lot of promise coming in and just didn't really do much. But
yeah, but I mean, neither of them were Formula 2 and Formula 3 champions. Like Logan Sargent won races, but he was not a champion.
Yeah, I mean, he was competitive with Oscar Piastri in I think
they
F2.
Yeah, they were close friends. But I mean, even then, I'm like, Formula 3 and Formula 2, it's so much more about driving and your racecraft and who you actually like are as a race car driver because you're all in full machinery. You get into Formula 1 and then really P12 and a Sauber's pretty good.
Yeah.
So it really, to me, it just shows that those upgrades mattered and that it's been holding him and Nico back because Nico should be in the top 10 and Gabriel, based on if he has a car that can perform, he should be based off the fact that he's a champion in F2 and F3.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that he is, 6, 7 positions. He's finishing 6, 7 places behind his teammate. I mean, can just be attributed to the fact that he is a rookie still. It's the fact that Nico has so much experience.
Yeah, jumping into a Formula 1 car is completely different than a Formula 2 car. And granted, yes, they would have been testing and things like that, but still, he hasn't had a full season in a Formula 1 car with every single practice session. Nothing like that. So, I mean, the technology is so different in the cars, so you're also having to really get used to that.
Yeah, I think so far, Gabriel Bortoleto has done enough.
Yeah.
And if he just continues on this trend of sort of doing more than what the Sauber should be able to do, if he just kind of continues on this upward trend of getting a little bit better, I think he'll be fine. Like, I'm not worried about him getting his seat changed out. Like, no one's even remotely talking about that like they were with Nick DeVries or with Logan Sargent. So I think give Gabby the year. We'll get the new regulations next year and we can see a little bit more, I think, what we can do with him.
Yeah. I'd also like to point out Williams got rid of Logan Sargent because of a lot of damage that he crashed the car multiple times. It wasn't just like, oh, he's underperforming, even though he was. But it was also because of
he kept
crashing the car. So that really, I think that had more to do with it. If he would have just kept finishing, I don't know that they would have switched him out like that. Because, I mean, that's really not a trend anybody does except Red Bull. So,
yeah. Carlos Sainz, driving for Williams, finished P14. He failed to score for the first time in 11 career Spanish Grand Prix starts. This was...
Boo!
This was also Carlos's home race. And Williams just wasn't on it this weekend. Alex Albon suffered his first DNF of the season after having 7 last season. So, I mean, we're still doing better than last season for Williams, but this was just a weird weekend for them. They just didn't have it together.
They didn't have a good weekend.
And I'm wondering if they kind of knew they weren't going to be suited to this track heading into it. But yeah, sorry for Williams. It was, they were doing so well, so consistently so far this season. And this just kind of sucked. This sucked ass for them.
Yeah, it did. It just straight up sucked ass. James Vowles was like, the fuck?
What happened? Okay, so talking about some other DNFs, we had Kimi Antonelli. He's now failed to score in the last 3 Grand Prix after his DNF in Spain. It was Mercedes' first DNF at this track since Hamilton and Rosberg collided on the opening lap of the 2016 race. And Kimi Antonelli, bless him, he kicked off everything that happened and all the interesting parts of this race. All of it was due to him.
Well, it's due to Mercedes' engine because he
Yeah.
didn't do anything wrong. The engine power unit failed.
Which is very rare.
Which is concerning because that's what Aston Martin uses. And Alonso had a power unit failure last race. Yeah. So that was very, very odd. Because, I mean, that doesn't happen often. So that was, that sucked because he probably would have got points. I mean, he was in the running to get points, so that happened.
Yeah.
Because of Kimi Antonelli's power unit failure, which caused the safety car, that led to a lot of people switching tires. So we had Charles and Lewis both switched to use softs. Max was switched to a hard, was not discussed. He was not aware of what tire he was getting till he's on it's already changed. He's on the road and he goes, what the fuck is this?
He's like, what are these tires, man?
He goes, they're hard. And he goes, why? He goes, that's all we had left, in silence.
Because at that point, everyone is like, why did we change the tires at all?
Exactly.
Because if there wouldn't have been a safety car, you would have gone the rest of the race on the tires you were on. Was he on softs?
He was on softs.
So
and they were not old.
I want to say they were like 3 or 4 laps used softs.
Yeah, they were not like, because he was on a soft and a soft, then a medium, then he went to a soft. So he did like a lot, and then he ended up changing to the hard. So yeah, he
that was just they got the strategy so right. They're the only ones I believe that originally planned to do a 3-stop.
Mm-hmm.
And the strategy was like on it. And they got the calls right up until that moment, and they fucked it up. They fucked it up for him. And it just it doesn't make any sense to put him, but they know the hard was a shitty tire. And the original plan was for him to take that soft all the way to the end of the race anyway. Not to mention that under the safety car, they're driving slower. So there's going to be less degradation on the soft tires because they're not pushing as hard.
What's crazy is Piastri and Norris both pitted as well under the car, both got softs, and it's like, if you would have just left Max out there on his used softs, I mean, he would have at least been in the top 5 no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he could have been first or second. Granted, they would have had to fight him for it, but for how long the safety car took to fucking get out, I mean, you just never know.
He would have had
timing was going to end up.
He would have had a much better chance because, I mean, as soon as that restart happened, he was just fucked. There was nothing he could do because there was no way he was going to get those hards up to temperature fast enough under the safety car, which that restart, by the way, from Oscar Piastri.
Cheeky.
Diabolical. I was cackling, screaming at that restart because when he almost came to a dead stop in that one turn, and like I saw Lando and Max both come up behind. They had to like kind of go to the side. They were almost next to each other. Trying to not hit and maintain their like just chef's kiss. Loved it.
No
was
notes.
cackling. No notes. Beautiful. Loved it.
Notes. Yeah. So, which all this is happening. Also, Nico Hulkenberg switches to a new soft because all the commotion that happens. So then you have Charles. He ends up passing Max. They do have a tiny bit of an incident, but it wasn't really an incident. That's just racing. Then we get to the juicy bits.
Love the juicy bits.
George Russell and Max. They had an incident, and then Max stayed ahead. He was told to give the place back to Russell. Even though it was nothing, I don't know that it was ever under, I guess it was under investigation, but
basically this was one of the few times because Red Bull almost never tells Max to give the place back because they know most of the time he's going to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time when there's an incident that occurs where Max could give the place back to avoid a potential penalty, Max prefers to risk getting the penalty because he knows that usually he's gambling on he'll have enough time to make up the time, basically, of whatever penalty he would
has also
get.
Been a huge criticism of F1 anyway, where they're like, well, why wouldn't everybody just do that?
Yeah. And but this is one of the few times when Red Bull told Max to give the place back, and Max seemingly agreed. And I think part of the reason was because of the safety car restart. Everyone is so close together, and there's so few laps left in the race that they don't want to risk getting that penalty. and dropping, several places down because that's how close all the cars were together at that point. So I assume that's why they told him to give it back. He clearly didn't want to give it back.
Oh, he was like, literally no. He goes, first of all, where's Charles's penalty? And I was like, that's enough. Come on.
Moving on.
Yeah, that's silly. Which I'm sure when he looked at it, he's like, yeah, that was nuts. And so, yeah.
All the drivers get on the radio and start
That's
squawking.
what Charles said. Charles was basically like, I mean, I would have done the same thing because like at this point, it's like you're just grasping at straws here.
Yeah, it's
like it's not
personal.
Because it's not a big deal.
It's part of playing the game.
So Max is instructed to give the position back. He's like, why? And GP's like, because it's the rules. And so Max seemingly is about to give the place back and then doesn't. And him and George Russell they hit each other. Or Max hits George. It really just depends your opinion on whether it was intentional or not.
Looking at, again, watching Jolyon Palmer's, is it Joylyn? Joylyn. So again, looking at Jolyon Palmer's breakdown of some of the key race moments, he does take it moment by moment through that whole incident with George and Max. And he says that basically it seems like Max was doing it to prove a point because part of the way the rules are now in Formula One is due to the way Max was racing in, was it 2021 when he was fighting Lewis for the championship? And basically they said that the rules have been changed because of the way Max drives. And the rule is, it's been typically that the driver who is ahead at the apex of a turn, is it that they basically get the position, they get the right of way kind of thing. And so Max is kind of,
which even then it's debatable because why not just dive bomb every single person into a corner and go late on your brakes and stuff like that's, yes, I mean, that's been one of those things that everybody for a long time has been like, that's just dumb.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where Max, in Joylyn's opinion, was trying to prove a point.
Yeah.
In that he slowed down seemingly to let George get the place back in a corner, which normally you wouldn't do it that way. If I'm understanding, normally you would try to give a place back on a straight or I don't know.
Yeah.
You try to strategically give a place back if you have to, so that you can strategically overtake them again immediately after and start attacking as soon as you're behind them.
Yeah.
So it seemed like Max was giving the place back to George, and George, seeing that Max wasn't there, he doesn't know what Max has been told or not. He just sees that Max isn't there. So George is like, okay, well, I'm getting my place.
And I'm assuming at that point, because everybody can hear the team radios, people have their listen. I'm assuming at that point, Mercedes has heard they've instructed Max to give the place back. So they've told George.
Well, Toto didn't know. They asked Toto after the race, what did you think about that? Max had been instructed to give the place back. And Toto was like, oh, he was? I had no idea. Because they were asking basically his opinion on what happened. And he's like, it was kind of bizarre. I don't really know if I don't know why he did that or what was going through his mind when that happened. And then when the interviewer told him Max was instructed to give the place back, Toto said, I didn't know that. That's news to me. He seemed very believable when he said it. So I don't know. But yeah, so basically, and George had the same thing. He's like, basically like, I have no idea why he did that. And basically rammed into me.
Well, yeah.
Because it seemed like Max gave the place back and then immediately tried to
it seemed to me like
overtake him or something.
It seemed to me that he was just sticking to that line and wasn't. I don't know. That's the thing is, I don't know someone's intention. All I know is Joylyn at the time and Nico Rosberg at the time, the past Formula One driver, they were both like, that was on purpose. I don't know that it was because I'm not Max.
Joylyn did even looked at the telemetry. He showed where it's like, okay, this is where Max is slowing down in the corner and gets off the throttle. And this is where he immediately gets back on the throttle. And he even looked at like Max's onboard to see how he was turning and where he was going and looked at the line that he was maybe trying to take. And Joylyn said he thinks it was Max trying to prove a point. I think Max got a little mad.
Mad Max.
It was just, and poor George Russell, I think, was just on the wrong end of Max just having a moment, because Max had so many things happen in the very short amount of time that you could argue he was a little overstimulated.
Yeah, he's pissed.
He was like, because they put him on the shitty tire and then he got overtaken 2 times in a row and then a slight collision or whatever.
And then Charles like brush and he's like, hello, he ran into me.
George overtakes him and then he's like, what the fuck? And being told to give the place back. Like all this stuff is happening and Max is just, they're calling it a red mist moment where he lost his mind and was enraged. And some people are going so far as to say that he was using his vehicle as a weapon.
Be fucking for real.
I think that one, we are fortunate that no one got hurt. If that, no matter what whose fault it was or what happened, we're fortunate that, I mean, nothing worse did happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could say he was using it as a weapon.
No.
Because I think Max knows his car well enough that he would know what he could get away with without seriously hurting somebody. I don't think Max wants to kill anybody or seriously injure them.
I have a message for people. I mean this as politely as possible. If you're somebody who genuinely feels like Max was using his car as a weapon, please go get mental help or just watch something else. You must have like no experience of maybe you didn't grow up watching NASCAR, maybe you didn't grow up watching racing at all. Shit happens. People have tempers. To go as far as to say a weapon, I've never once thought about using the term snowflake, really. That's some snowflake baby ass shit. Grow the fuck up. That's insane. That's crazy. That's insane shit to say. If you want to say it's a bad example, whatever.
Bad sportsmanship.
Sure. But as a weapon, grow the fuck up. Honestly, that's so fucking stupid.
I mean, I do think that there is something to be said for intentionally using your car to intentionally try to hit someone.
Yeah, it caused a collision and he got a penalty for it. Now, I don't know the rules of black flags or I don't know how that decision is made. But I feel like using it as a weapon implies I'm trying to cause harm. And I'm like, you're looking at arguably probably the best driver on the grid.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, if you look at using it as a weapon as meaning they were using it to try to cause harm to the, like, physical bodily harm to the other driver, then yeah, I would agree. I don't think Max is trying to hurt anybody.
No.
But is it reckless to intentionally use your car to hit someone else? Yes.
100%.
And reckless driving is dangerous.
Yeah. No, I'm not arguing that it wasn't reckless, that it was unsportsmanlike, that none of that. But to say a weapon, like, let's be fucking for real. Let's just, like, chill the fuck out. Like, this is why drivers are starting to hate people. They're starting to hate online discourse and hate fans because of like baby ass shit like that. That's just crazy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if you could.
That's such a way to villainize him even more. Everybody has a bad day. Everybody has been guilty of causing a collision, maybe on purpose or not. But it's not unheard of. Mm-hmm. Even outside of F1, we see fucking like NASCAR drivers punch the fuck out of each other. We've seen NASCAR drivers throw shit at moving cars. Is that a weapon? Like, grow the fuck up. Like, it's language that in the way that it happened, and really, it's not like he fucking ran somebody over intentionally, like a human being.
I mean, I think that there is a difference between. It comes down to intent at the end of the day, and we have no idea at this point what Max's intent was doing that.
I feel fairly confident saying his intent was not to harm George Russell.
I think
not physically.
He wanted to mess up his
maybe
race.
Hurt his feelings.
Yeah, or I think there's a difference between hard, close racing that results in touching and results in punctures and cars brushing or hitting each other. There's a difference between that. I mean, you can even look at, was it Hungary last year between Max and Lando when they were kind of playing a game of chicken to see who would be latest on the brakes or who would back out of a turn or back out of trying to overtake, and it ended up with them colliding. I mean, that's just rough, hard racing. And
yeah.
that is different to me than what happened with George and Max.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think for a second it's okay.
Yes.
But I'm not going to go as far as to say he used his car as a weapon. It just feels like... It feels like when people start to say things like that, even though it's not therapy speak or whatever, it feels like people grabbing onto a word and they're sensationalizing this word and then associating Max because he's a villain and now he weaponizes his car. It just sounds like the next narrative to villainize Max with more than like people really feeling that way. It just feels like people who already didn't like him are villainizing him even further, even though, what he did was fucking wrong. If that's what happened. Can't actually say what his intention was because I'm not him. Just what everybody's opinion of it is. So one other thing, speaking of like, assault. If you've been following Formula One for a while, or if you watched Drive to Survive, you will remember a time when Valtteri Bottas and George Russell got in a collision and they wrecked.
Oh, this was when George was at Williams. And they were Mercedes was looking to sign him, basically.
Yeah. So George Russell and Valtteri, they crash. They're on the side of the racetrack. George Russell gets out of his car, stalks up to Valtteri's car, and smacks the side of his helmet. So I just don't think I want to hear the narrative, and I like George Russell just fine, but I don't really want to hear the narrative about being an example to children and things like that when I see you smack somebody upside the head, like outside of your race car. Like, that was an actual choice you made that I can clearly fucking see. So I just don't really want to see the narrative of, oh, the poor little kitties. Max is setting such a bad example. Honey, please. I think this is too much. It's so fucking extra. And it's like the same thing with music, though. It's with anything. It's always like, why do we always use you're setting a bad example for kids? So it's like, if we're having the conversation about Max, let's bring up every other person who's ever done anything slightly villainous. It's just like, there's something about Max, and it's because of his persona. He don't give a fuck.
I think any argument that's for anything that's like, you're not setting a good example. Think of the children. I don't really give a rat's rear end about the children when it comes to setting examples for them because I ain't their mama.
No.
And these people are not their parents. Yeah, I think that anybody saying it as an argument for why somebody should or should not do something, if as far as celebrities or athletes or anybody is, you're not setting a good example for the children. Fuck them kids. No, it's not my job to set an example in terms of morality and behavior. The only example I should be setting is if I'm winning records and if I'm winning races, if I'm setting records, if I'm a hard worker, by all means, let kids idolize or look up to as a role model, but in terms of the other aspect of it, no, I don't really care.
No,
it's not my job to teach them that.
Yeah.
I'm here to do my job, which is to race and to win.
Yeah. I just think that whole narrative is insane. I'm not saying obviously what Max did, if it was intentional, was wrong. Duh. I think anybody is understanding of that.
I mean, Max, did you see his most recent Instagram post so he kind of addressed what happened. He didn't say it was his fault or apologize, but this is the most he doesn't usually address these things at all. I feel like this was probably, I feel like his team probably told him, you got to say something something out there.
Yeah.
But he said, his caption says, we had an exciting strategy and good race in Barcelona till the safety car came out. Our tire choice to the end and some moves after the safety car restart fueled my frustration, leading to a move that was not right and shouldn't have happened. I always give everything out there for the team and emotions can run high. You win some together, you lose some together. See you in Montreal.
Still basically saying it shouldn't have happened, but it did. But never, he just says a move.
Yeah, he doesn't fully address what he's saying. He leaves it ambiguous enough that you can kind of take from it what you want. And it's kind of vague enough.
Leading to a move that was not right and shouldn't have happened could also mean I shouldn't have given the fucking position back in the fucking first place. It's probably what he really means, to be
Yes.
honest. I don't think he's talking about his thing with Russell because I don't think he gives a shit.
Yes.
He said,
Again, it's worded in such a vague way that it could mean either or. And I think that was intentional. Because again,
Yeah.
Max has a history of not addressing these things, not dwelling on it, talking about it, not apologizing, not
Mm-mm.
admitting any sort of fault.
No.
He kind of is just always like what happened happened. It is what it is.
He
There's
goes,
no use talking about it.
I was there. You were there. That's it.
Pretty much.
So that was the biggest thing with George Russell and Max. That was insane. I guess we can hop into do you have anything else you want to say before we do the rookie report?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
My favorite moment from the weekend was in Toto Wolff's post-race interview. They're asking him about what happened with George, and then they talk about Kimi. And then the interviewers asked Toto, what can you take away? Like, what can Mercedes take away from this triple header? Is there anything we can take away about the car or, the direction we're headed? What can we take away? And Toto says, suffering.
I love him.
And I cackled. I was just like, oh my, iconic response. What can you take away from this triple header? Suffering. And then he had to clarify. He said, not like personal suffering, but like work suffering. And I was like, oh my God, Toto.
He's so funny, dude.
That was just so dramatic, so melodramatic. I just loved it.
No, I love it. We can go ahead and hop into our rookie report. So our first rookie, Kimi Antonelli, he qualified 6th. He did not finish. He has a DNF, so 0 points. Antonelli was in the mix for points despite an early mistake, but retired in the gravel with a suspected power unit issue. It is his second DNF in 3 races. He said the tire management was tough in the heat, even though he felt strong in the medium tire and he had solid pace. And after a challenging triple header, he's ready to reset and focus on his first Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal. So I guess it'll be the first time he's ever been there. So let's go, Kimi. You're gonna bounce back, buddy. Isaac Hadjar, he qualified 9th. He finished 7th, so he got 6 points.
Woohoo!
So Isaac started and finished in the top 10, avoiding the chaos around him at the start, and he secured 7th. He passed Gasly, but he did lose a spot to Hulkenberg after the safety car restart, but he still delivered a strong result. His 4th points finish in 5 races. He called it a near-perfect race, praised the team's strategy and tire calls, and he's growing more confident each weekend. With points in all 3 rounds of the triple header, he's aiming to keep the momentum going in Canada. I noticed something. Lewis does this a lot, too. And it's something that I think is interesting considering that's his idol. He always talks about the team. He always is thankful to the team. He always is like, we did a really good job. I'm so thankful to the team. He's always like, not every driver, not saying drivers don't do that, but he's just like, he's very conscious about it seems. And it just reminds me of Lewis, which makes sense because that's like his idol or whatever. So I've noticed it every single time I'm like gathering the information for him. He's always praising the team. And I just think that's interesting because it's such a ahead of his time type of thing to really even think about to do.
Yeah.
Franco Colapinto, he qualified 19th. He finished 15th, so 0 points. So Colapinto already kind of had a rough weekend. His qualifying ended early with a driveline issue that left him stuck in neutral and forcing him to stop in the pit lane and drop to 19th, so he didn't even get to qualify. He just had to sit there and watch everybody go around him. And during the race, he gained a few spots, but he struggled to make any impact due to the tight circuit and tire wear. He's focused on improving qualifying and gaining experience ahead of Montreal. So basically, this triple header's been a lot of experience for him, and he's hoping to take all that into Canada. Ollie Behrman, he qualified 15th. He finished 17th, so no points.
Wah-wah.
So Behrman looked set for points after a strong start, but he was handed a 10-second time penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage while battling Liam Lawson. The late safety car bunched up the field, dropping him down the order, and despite the setback, he felt the car had improved over the weekend and saw positives to build on heading into the next round. So, just wasn't his weekend. Sorry. Gabriele Bortoleto, he qualified 12th, he finished 12th, so no points. Bortoleto finished where he started after being undercut during the first pit stops. He also praised the team's upgrades and strong pace, calling it a solid race despite an unlucky safety car. After a triple header full of learning and progress, he's focused on building momentum and preparing for Montreal. So basically, he's happy with the upgrades and ready to take all these learned into Canada. Because it should be his first time, I would imagine, as well. Liam Lawson, he qualified 13th. He finished 11th, so 0 points.
Wah, wah, wah.
So Liam was in the thick of the action.
Into the thick of it.
He made contact with Alex Albon during a bold overtake, which is the reason I believe Alex had to retire the car later. Or maybe it was right then and there. And Liam also tried the same move over Behrman, but he was not able to do so because he was way too far back. After skipping a safety car pit stop, he dropped to P10 on older tires, and then he fell back to 11th once Alonso said, oh no, and passed him. And despite all of that, Liam praised the race pace and the battles, calling it a strong effort and looking on to build into Canada with points as the goal. So basically, he's like, yeah, it was what it was. I'm ready to go to Canada.
I believe I heard someone... I don't remember if we talked about this in the last episode. I believe I heard someone comparing Liam Lawson to Kevin Magnussen. Basically, because when you look at Kevin Magnussen's performance last season, there was a race where he held up the field for his teammate and, was slowing people down so his teammate could build a gap and get a free pit stop and score some points. Mm-hmm. And K-Mag was also not afraid to take some people out.
No.
And so some people have started to...
It was a huge joke last year once he had more points. And that's why Ollie had to drive in the Haas. So, because he had to sit out a race because he had all those points on his license. But it reset. Everyone's like, watch out.
He's coming back.
He's coming to
no
get you.
penalty points. And this is last season in Formula One. He's coming for you.
Exactly.
But yeah, I just thought it was funny people making that sort of comparison.
Well, yeah, because Liam's like, move. Mm. Fernando Alonso, he qualified 10th and he finished 9th, so we got 2 points! I was so happy. So, this being said, he was the only Aston Martin in the race because Lance Stroll, he has some issue with his hand, so he wasn't able to participate in the race. So he was the only car for Aston Martin on the grid.
You know what's a shame is that I know Lance, up until now, has been the only one on the team scoring any points this season for Aston Martin. I feel like we never talk about him. Even though sometimes he does pretty well. He's had solid performances in scoring points and stuff. But I just never think about him. I didn't even notice he wasn't there.
Ooh.
Honestly.
Oh, wow.
Until someone specifically mentioned it. And I was like, oh yeah,
he's not here.
He's not here.
Poor Lance. Like we said, with just one car in the race, all eyes were on Alonso to score points at his home race. After sliding into the gravel early and losing places, he pitted early and battled through traffic outside of the points. Taking advantage of Behrman and Lawson's fight and a late safety car, Alonso climbed to P10 and inherited 9th after Verstappen's penalty, earning his first points of the season. He said racing at home is special and praised the fans' support and looks forward to building momentum in Canada while wishing a quick recovery to Lance Stroll. So, I'm just so happy he got points. I was so excited. That was actually I was like, all right, everything else that happened, I'm happy.
Oh yeah, and part of the reason... So normally teams have a reserve driver in cases or scenarios where one of their regular drivers gets ill or injured and can't do the main race. So the reason they didn't have a second car is because they didn't have a reserve driver. I don't think that was readily available. And then 2, by the time Lance pulled out after qualifying. Yeah. And so in order for a reserve driver to take part in the main race, they have to participate in qualifying. Wow. But yeah, basically there was just no one available to do it. No. But they couldn't have anyway because Lance pulled out too late in qualifying.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that wraps up the rookie report. Now we can move on to our best and worst segment. So my driver of the day, I couldn't pick, so I have 2.
No, you have to pick one.
I have 2.
I had 2. One is a backup in case you picked the same one I did.
No,
you have to pick one.
I'm saying both. No, I'm a grown woman.
Damn it.
I'm going with Alonso and Hülkenberg.
You bitch!
Because duh, what the fuck?
That was also my 2.
Well, I mean, they should be.
Yes.
They should be. I'm like, no, both of them. That's crazy. Yes. Hülkenberg and that freaking tractor. Alonso getting his points at his home race. Cinema. Absolute cinema.
Yes.
And then my biggest letdown, even though I sat here and I basically was like, get over it, Max did what he did, my biggest letdown is Max. And the reason being is, to be honest, I don't really care that much about the incident. Now, if it was with Lewis, I would have been bitching and complaining and hollering, and that's fair enough. But that to say, I'm more disappointed because Red Bull is already in a tough position constructor-wise, and at this point, I don't think they're hoping they're going to win the constructors, right? But even for the driver, so even Max himself, from that incident, all he did was hurt himself and hurt his team because he did let his anger get the better of him. And it's disappointing because, I mean, I like Max, and I do love Red Bull. When I was introduced to Formula One, Vettel was with Red Bull, and that's who I liked. Like, I didn't watch it as religiously as I do now, but that's who I became aware of, so I've always been a Red Bull fan. So it's, that was my biggest letdown, because I was just like, well, was it worth it? Was it? Yeah.
I'll go with that too. Sounds good. No, I mean, I was struggling to find a biggest letdown. Honestly,
I was too, until I was like, well, if I just let go of like a driver position, that was really the only thing that I was like,
yeah, that's trying. Everyone else kind of finished either in the points or they improved some during the race, or it just wasn't. No one had like a terrible performance or anything. So the biggest letdown is that Max basically shot himself in his foot.
Yeah.
By pulling the move that he did and, losing all those points, dropping him from would have been 5th to 10th.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's a lot of points lost. I mean, so that was my biggest letdown. So hopping into our next race teaser before we wrap things up, we will be going into round 10 at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, the Canadian GP. I apologize if I said it wrong. I truly did my best. I listened to a video and I really tried.
You did good.
So the last year's main results were Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, and George Russell. And I have some track stats here because I was thinking, we don't really do the track stats, and why not?
Sure.
So the first GP ever held here was in 1978. It has 70 laps. The circuit length is 4.361 kilometers, which is about 2.7 miles. The race distance is 305.27 kilometers, which is about 189 miles.
I feel like 70 laps is on the high end, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a very...
It's a short circuit.
Yeah.
Short circuit.
So the lap record is held by Valtteri Bottas, which he set in 2019 at 1 minute and 13 seconds, 0.078. I don't really know how to say that. And
1 minute and 13.078 seconds.
Thank you. That's the lap record. It has 2 DRS zones, and our tire type will be the same tires that we had in Monaco. It's going to be the C4, the C5, and the C6, and that's going to be the softest compound, which everybody was like,
Is this not a high deg track then? I assume.
It is not considered a high deg track, so that is why they're going with the softer compounds, which we'll see if it is going to be colder there. We'll see how the tires perform there, because nobody really loved the C6. People were not loving it whenever they had it in Imola. So the fast, slow downforce circuit is a driver favorite. It features heavy braking chicanes and the famous hairpin that tests everybody's braking skills. The lap ends with the iconic Wall of Champions, known for catching out legends like Hill and Schumacher during the 1999 Canadian GP. And the track, I was like, can we overtake here? That's the main thing I want to know. Can we overtake here? Yes, if you're skilled. So basically, the track offers good overtaking spots with heavy braking zones and long straights for slipstreaming. However, its narrow sections and the famous Wall of Champions make passing tricky and requires skill and patience. So it's possible, but you gotta really know and be prepared that you're gonna do it. It's not gonna be as obvious and as easy to do it as it is at other circuits.
Seems like this is going to be a case of setting up people to overtake them.
Yeah.
Or to, So basically, I mean, and Lando's actually pretty good at this. He has been this season, where sometimes he'll take a little bit longer to pass people. But that is because he will try some different things to kind of see where he can, like, he's going to take certain lines in certain corners, and then he'll try something different and try to catch them out.
Yeah.
So this is going to definitely, I think, be a case of, like you said, patience and setting people up to be able to then make your move at the right time to overtake.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting if people are able to do that.
Yeah. That about wraps this up, though. Let us know your driver of the day or your biggest ups and your lowest of lows. Who let you down?
Do you care that Max Verstappen is a bad example for kids?
Yeah, do you care? Because I don't.
And
And I'm not saying he even is. So
let us know in the comments, and we will talk to you in 2 weeks with our Canada GP race review.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.